I think one of the biggest misconceptions about alcohol use disorder is that it really is an accountability issue. And so much alcoholism, or the reasons why people start, is because of it's a trauma response. Maybe they had some, issue when they're in childhood, maybe some kind of abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and that's a response. The alcohol later in life becomes a response to that. Now, it can be alcohol or drugs or food or gambling or some other response to that trauma. Now, you mix that in with hereditary issues like ADHB1 and ALDH2, which are chromosomally give somebody a hereditary disposition, and then you grow up in a family culture where it's normalized to drink. I mean, this is a recipe for a lot of problems. And dysfunction in family is the reasons why, a lot of times, is really the core issue of why people drink. I'm going to explore a little bit what happened to my wife because a lot of people are always interested, but all these types of things happened. It's ultimately so important to take an accountability for your trauma and for your emotions. The difference between people who survive alcohol use disorder and the ones that don't, it's a difference between taking accountability ultimately of your emotions. Unfortunately, repressed emotions are a big part of alcoholism, just not dealing with things that happened in your past. Now, you mix that again with hereditary issues, family culture, peer pressure, and just life itself. It's really a maturation when you mature to the point where, I need to get this taken care of. These are things in conversations you should have in the earlier stages. Now, in the later stages, when someone becomes chemically, physically, emotionally, and it's become part of their identity, that's a different issue. That they're further down the road, and that's a much more difficult hill to climb. Initially, if you have the ability to recognize your trauma in your life and do something about it through therapy, group therapy, counseling, one-on-one training, and just having an overall understanding of why you're doing what you're doing, you have a much higher chance. That's why it's so important to recognize the red flags. So if you're drinking in isolation, if you're hiding your bottles and cans, if you don't have an off switch, you're binge drinking, you're drinking until you pass out, you don't have the ability to regulate your alcohol intake on a regular basis. If you're using alcohol as a as a reward system, and then you're developing this habit which develops further down the road in this illness. And if you aren't able to recognize that, well, it is a progressive disease. It will get worse. So if you don't nip it in the bud, the earlier the better, like any disease, it's only going to get worse. And let's talk about the family next. So in that context, to blame this on spouses or family members, certainly the second family member, say if you're married into one, is really ridiculous. The first family, yes, that they can be a contributor to the dysfunction or to the trauma or to the repressed emotions, certainly. But again, many people have trauma. They have abuse in childhood, and they don't go and become alcoholic or drug addict or gambling fiend. What's the difference? It's because they dealt with their emotions. They dealt with they were able to look at what was the problem was and work through it. They took an accountability. They worked on themselves. They took care of themselves physically and mentally and emotionally, and they surrounded themselves with much healthier people. It's a big part of it. And again, this isn't always true in every single case, because for every alcoholic, there's always a different story behind it. But fundamentally, it's about taking control of your emotions and stepping up and taking the accountability. Working on oneself is the difference between success and failure. And it's also a life hack, okay? If we have to face the things that scare us the most, and if we get used to being uncomfortable, that's how we evolve and grow as a person. Now, if our comfort zone is drinking a 10-pack of beer a night, or 12-pack, or 6, or a fifth of whiskey or vodka, or whatever your choice is, or a bottle of wine like my wife did, if that's your comfort zone, it will soon create mental and physical problems that you simply do not want to go down that road. I hope this video has clarified some things, and I hope it helps families. Families are not the problem any more than if your loved one had cancer or heart disease. You can't fix somebody, you can't change somebody. All you can do is create boundaries and allow the alcoholic in your family to realize that they can't cross these, and their behavior has to change if they want the family and their loved ones in their life. And again, I go live Monday through Friday, right around 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We also have the Facebook group. The link is in the bio. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Very good group if you want more context to your questions. And also, when you're ready to work with me one-on-one, you can schedule a breakthrough call. I have a complete coaching program that's designed to help families and the alcoholic in their family. It's a different approach because it's a family disease, and you really have to educate and heal the entire family. And again, I've helped thousands of alcoholics and their families, so I'd like to help yours. Again, thanks for listening.